Okay. Evening, guys. Welcome to another session of When Ink Can Talk. Tonight we have Dana as our guest all the way from America. He's going to be chatting to us about film production and a little bit about his acting career. So welcome, Dana. If you can just introduce yourself, tell everybody a bit about who you are, and then we're going to ask about your journey.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's really an honor, and I'm excited to be sharing with you a little bit about my journey, and hopefully it sheds some light for other people. So I got started in the entertainment industry as an actor. I got my BA in theater arts and moved to New York, was studying musical theater out there, and decided that what I wanted to be focused on was film. And ended up making my way out to LA, was studying acting, was making my way through the industry, and just felt a pull to do more. I'm sitting on stage or on set, looking at everyone running around, doing all these incredible things and making movie magic occur. And I was like, I want to help make it happen. And so I transitioned from acting into writing and then producing, which is where I've really found a passion, something about enabling people to do what they love, empowering them to do what they love, whether it's writing, directing, acting, film, cinematography, whatever it may be. That became much more fulfilling than being the center of attention, than being the main lead or actor or whatever it may be, the talent. Though I still love that and still have a passion for that, but I just found such value in being able to empower other people.
That's fantastic. When you say you transitioned to writing, was that screenwriting?
Yeah, so what happened was I wasn't necessarily liking kind of the transition between or any of the parts that I was getting. I was just kind of unhappy with the roles that I was booking. And so I thought, well, maybe it's just because I'm not booking the right roles. And so I started writing content for myself, and just out of necessity, actually produced that content. And that's where the fire was kind of lit. Was I wrote something for myself. My friends were like, cool, this is great, let's make it. And we were also trying to get our SAG eligibility. And so, nobody knew how to produce. So it's like, you know what, I'll figure it out, I'll do it. And that's what kind of sparked this passion, I guess, if you want to call it that. And all of a sudden, I was like, producing is what I want to do. It's what really connects with me.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've had the same learning journey. Started out, you can see my books behind me there on my background, and my goal one day is to get them made into a movie franchise or a TV series. So I've been looking at the whole production industry, and the learning curve is so steep. I've moved backwards, and I'm hoping to actually go all the way around so I can start moving forward again. It is definitely a different beast there. What's the transition or testimonial or whatever it is, that's basically the summary of what your movie is about? It's something with the T there.
You mean the logline or synopsis?
Yeah, it's something similar to that, something with the T, which just was beyond me. But yeah, you'll know more about that. It's basically it includes the logline and the synopsis. Kind of
you mean like lookbook.
Yeah. No, so it's quite something. And the whole point of this group of When Ink Can Talk, just to give you a bit of background here. So Kazan is from Iraq. He's also an author. He does translations. Shan's an author. Roz is an editor. I'm an author. And the whole point of this group is to bring people together, bring different creatives together and share knowledge and share that wisdom. So you might have an author looking to get their books made into a movie. So they need somebody who does screenplays and a producer, et cetera, et cetera. Or there might be a producer like you looking for new talent, and all of a sudden you might say, okay, Shan's book, Love Layer, is fantastic. I want to go and make a movie of this. Or Shan might be looking for an editor, and there's Roz right there. So our whole goal is every week we meet and we try and connect people with each other and give them that opportunity to learn from each other and learn from people like you who have the experience. But also it's about networking and basically just growing that, growing connections, if I can put it that way. I think we have some questions here. I'm just going to pass you over to Shan quickly. Shan, if you want to unmute and just ask your questions there.
Yeah, you've had a fascinating journey. It's been, from what you're saying, it sounds absolutely exciting. Just a question, is the transition from acting to writing, I mean, all of us have different passions, but we're not always able to finance it. Like, I mean, I am an author, but I still have to maintain a full-time job as well because it doesn't pay bills at present. But for you, you said you very quickly seemed to change from your acting in terms of getting your story written and then getting it produced. Was capital financing not an issue? How were you able to do that? Did you have to get sponsors initially for your first project?
Yeah, so for the very first project, very low budget, what it was a passion project, and we had a very clear goal, and everyone who was a part of it understood that goal and wanted to be a part of that goal, and that goal was to get our union eligibility. So the very first project I worked on was, I spent about 45 minutes writing a 4-page scene, well, 4-page, I don't know, short film, and then worked on it, and I think we ended up with about 15 pages. And it was just this real quick short, but everyone who was a part of it wanted to get their SAG eligibility. Now back then that was
just sorry to interrupt you there. What is that eligibility? None of us are in the film industry, and for the people out there, that's quite a big learning curve for us. What is the eligibility involved? Totally.
And if I do anything like that, just let me know. I apologize.
No worries. Like I told you, the learning curve's moved so far backwards. I'm moving back.
Totally. No, you're good. And the industry is so funny. There is so many interesting little avenues. But so SAG, Screen Actors Guild, is the actors union, right? And in order to become a part of the union, you have to become eligible. Well, it's a catch-22. So you can only be in a union movie if you have union eligibility. So how do you get union eligibility? Well, you have to be in a union movie. And so oftentimes there are different ways of doing it. You can be in a background and you get certain vouchers for that, and then that gives you eligibility. Or you can be cast and they like you so much, they'll what they call Taft-Hartley you. And there are all these different types of agreements that you can make with the SAG union. So you have everything from a multi-million-dollar feature film to a low budget, to an ultra low budget, to a student film, to a new media agreement, theatrical. I mean, all of these different designations. And then what's the union gives you is certain rights, certain protection, certain pay rates. Usually, if you are a high-level actor, you are a part of the union. But again, it's catch-22 also, because if you all of a sudden just become, if I had never acted before in my life and they gave me SAG eligibility or I had joined the union, now I am in that elite group, but my resume doesn't reflect that. So that can kind of be this catch-22 where you just don't have the work, and so they don't want to hire you because you're not tested. So you know, as an actor, you aspire to get that SAG eligibility, and again, it gives you certain rights, certain protections in that union. There are different ways of going about joining the union. Back then, that was about 2016, if I'm not mistaken. 2016. Between then and now, lots of things have changed. We were under what's called a SAG New Media agreement, and we had the capability of Taft-Hartleying ourselves. So Taft-Hartley is just this waiver that says He's a non-union actor, but we'll let him be in this union film, and it makes him SAG eligible. And then if you're eligible, you can then pay to join the union. And back then you could do it. So we all had this goal to do it. But this was around
back to the financing. Sorry,
back to no, you're totally good. But back then, what you have to understand is a lot of things were changing in the union. Today, you cannot join the union even if you're in a SAG film unless it's I think it's a low budget or above. So like over $300,000 and above. So here we were, a bunch of kids trying to scrap together some money. So we had about 5 or 6 people who all pitched in. We self-financed for this first film. And it was, it didn't cost us a whole lot. I mean, I think we raised about $3,000, but back then, there were fewer insurance companies, and insurance was what cost all the money. And for us, we actually had one insurance, and they told us we didn't have to have another insurance. And then we made the film, and then they were like, well, you didn't have this other insurance, so you don't get your Taft-Hartley. And it was just this heartbreaking event. But that's how we did it. We all had a passion, and that's often how movies are financed just in general, is you find somebody with the money and you get them hyped up about the movie and being a part of the entertainment industry, these private investors, and they want to give. And so that's what we did. And it wasn't a whole lot of money for that very first one.
So that's actually quite an interesting point now. So if it was Shan or on our goals to get movies made of our books, what is the actual process there? I mean, like I said, we know nothing about the film industry. So where would we go if we want to see our books on the big screen? What is the process that goes through? From what I've read, you need a screenplay, and then
I mean that's a great start. There are a million ways to do it, and not any one of them is guaranteed. So and of course this is from my experience, and other people may have other experiences, so of course take everything with a grain of salt, but you have an idea, and that can be sometimes the most challenging part. As long as it's well thought out, as long as it's clear, that can be sometimes the hardest thing. So some people start with a script, and I think that's probably the easiest way, because it tells me if you're a good writer or not. But some people just start with an idea, and you can get people behind an idea, and then if you have a writer, especially if they're established, then you can start pitching the idea to investors and so on and so forth. So
who are these investors generally?
Anybody.
Anybody.
That's the name. That's the name of the game. Money is the hardest part. Money is the hardest part to get a movie made. And then you got to make a good movie with whatever money you got. And there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to do that. There are a lot of moving parts, right? So you, as the producer, you try and give it the best chance for success that you've got. So where do you get the money? There are weird places to get money. You can go into private investors. You can go into pre-sales, distribution, and you can go into brand money. What do they call that? Brand integration. You can go to the studio. The studios have money. But typically, if you go to a studio, you got to know somebody at the studio, and they've got to have all these names attached to it. They've got to pretty much be guaranteed that they're going to make money. Otherwise, why would they spend money on you? They've got all the money. They've got all the success. They can pick and choose however they want. So there's money in a lot of different places. I like the private investors. Those are the ones because, I identify as a independent producer, independent filmmaker. And that's where I would find my money, is in private investors. So people who are passionate about a project, and they can be from any walk of life. They can be, doctors who are feeling, they've got all this money and they're like, I want to do something meaningful with my life, or I'm passionate about, I want to be in the film industry. I don't know. My heart decided it wanted to do that. And now you're connecting with them and pitching them your project, and they're passionate about it. But the first step is to have that project, have a clear outline of that project. Really having a strong lookbook is an important element, or investor pitch deck. And there's certain, like, I don't know, everyone kind of has their own idea of what a pitch deck or investor lookbook looks like. I'm sure there's an industry standard. What it is, I don't know. So I just do whatever it is. I work with closely with my girlfriend, who has had a lot of experience with that, and she puts those together, and she's very good at that. So for me, it's all about finding people who know how to do what they do. What's that?
I think we'll have to get her on the show sometime, and she can tell us exactly what it is about that, because the amount of knowledge we're taking away from you now is fantastic. I mean, this is a couple of shows worth. We usually only have 40 minutes here, but I think you've got hours to tell us. I've got some questions here. Kiyu has a question there. So Kiyu, if you'd like to unmute and ask Dana.
Hello, thanks, Dana. I think we've been kind of focusing on the first part of the journey, and my question is towards the, after you have done the production, so where do you distribute? Because I mean, cinemas, I mean, I can think of, but I'm not sure how they choose or select, or are there other, do you just do it on the internet? Like, where do you distribute? And where do you recoup your investment also?
Yeah. So that's it depends. You have to know, like, ahead of time what you're going into. Is this going to be a YouTube project? I've been working on a lot of those lately, where they're these YouTube stars and they've got these big channels, and that's how they monetize their content. There are also distribution companies, and oftentimes those distribution companies want strong pieces that they can then distribute. And if you don't have the money ahead of time, they can do pre-sales. And if it's like got this big cast, they can do a lot of pre-sales, and that helps you raise money for your project. It's distribution. It can happen in many different ways. Netflix is a distribution, Hulu is a distribution, but there are companies that specialize in that you can then, essentially pitch to.
Perfect.
And how do you find them? They're online. IMDb relationships, building relationships is the name of the game in this industry.
Yeah, we've got a question. It's Shan up next, then Roz, and then Kazan also has a question for you. Shan, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, my question was a bit similar to Q's, but it's just to get a little bit more info on that. You did speak about the distribution, but is there a chance that if like I, as an author, get an investor, get to the production stage, I work with you, we make the project happen, we make a movie, is there a chance that it does not get onto Netflix or the cinema or wherever, or I don't get my money back, or the investors don't get their money back? Or is it that you in advance get a contract with Netflix or YouTube or whoever? How does it work? Do you first get your contract going that this movie or this production is going to air? Or is this a chance that, like, okay, the author has to invest, find the investors, and then it may go nowhere?
Yep. It kind of depends on how you set it up. So let's say you have a project and people want to, like you already have distributors lined up. That's definitely a possibility, where you've got people already interested in it. Netflix is like, dude, I already like you. Let's work together. You have a first look deal. You have a second look, whatever, right? That can be a possibility. But again, those relationships that you've developed, if you are completely unknown, you don't have the representation, and you get all this money, you make the movie. How are you going to make money off of it? Well, you have to get it seen. What's the easiest way to get it seen? Film festivals. And depending on your film, you may find international film festivals. You may find American film festivals that get your movie out there, and there are more legitimate film festivals than others. There's during the pandemic, the whole film festival world exploded because it became a moneymaker. So you have to figure out which ones are legitimate and which ones are not. So that's another way to get your movie seen. Now you get into one of these bigger film festivals. Netflix is there. CAA is there. They want to represent your film. They want to buy your film. Chances are, if you're in one of the bigger film festivals, they already know who you are. They've already looked you up. They know what the project is. They know how it is, or how good it is, just based on the what they call the aggregate. So like the star power of the cast. Now you don't have to necessarily have Tom Cruise in there, but if you've got a bunch of B-list actors, C-list actors, D-list actors, that gives it some strength.
A bit of legitimacy.
Just to interrupt you there, is it up to like you, the producer, to get it to the film festival?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that'd be part of the budget and kind of the game plan from the get-go. Is you kind of go in and go, okay, this is what we want to do. This is what we're aiming to do. For me, sometimes it's okay. We know that we're not going to be able to get distribution right off the bat. We just don't have that capability. We're going to make the film, and then we're going to go and just do the festival run, is what they call it, and try and get in all these festivals that we can. Yeah, and gain interest. Yeah, gain some traction, and then hopefully get it sold, or sometimes they'll buy the IP or the intellectual property, and then remake the movie because they like the idea, but you don't have a strong enough cast, and that's fine. But yeah.
So all roads lead to Rome, but it's the different ways of getting there. Basically, you just have a couple of different options.
And that's the challenge for the producers. How do we get to where we want to be? And then good luck.
You're the quarterback and you're running that whole thing.
Yep.
Perfect. We've got a question from Rose and then one from Kazan. Rose, do you want to unmute and just ask your question?
Hi, Dana. Yeah, it's very interesting. My question is, how do you meet private investors? Are there certain places you can go to? Or just how does it work?
Yeah, that's a great question. We'd all love to know the answer. And that's kind of the heck of it. Oftentimes it's relationships that you make. Again, it just goes back to relationships. I think this whole industry is built off that. That is something that I'm very passionate about. I mean, right from the get-go, that's what I love. I want to build relationships with people and give them the capability to do what they love. Now, that also means the same for investors. So when you start delivering quality, that kind of puts some buzz around you, and then all of a sudden you're in rooms that you didn't think you had any right being in. And making relationships with people you didn't know before. I ended up in the Chamber of Commerce for Beverly Hills the other day, just because I sat down with coffee with a friend of mine, and she was then doing an investor pitch. And I got to meet all these people. She just invited me. I'm like not even an investor, and she knows that I'm a producer and working on my own projects. I don't even think I'm working on this project with her. But yeah, I don't know, man.
It sounds like just a progression. You meet one person, then another, and something leads to something else. And
yeah, some people know people with money. Some people, like an entertainment lawyer, usually has a lot of those connections. But where do you find the money? It's in a lot of places. Yeah. No clear.
We've got one more question there from Kazan. Kazan, if you just want to unmute and ask your question there.
Yeah, hello. I'm sorry that I will change the type of question. My question is about our nationality. As you know, Iraq, especially in Kurdistan, have a lot of tragic stories, a lot of stories that convenient for films, for series. My question is that have you any plan to come to Iraq and make a film as a producer? about Kurdish, about people of that living here?
Iraq specifically, not to my, not in my wheelhouse. It's just not it's not out of the realm of possibility, I guess. What we've been talking about is Egypt and ancient Egypt. That's a passion that we have, is kind of that ancient history. But going international provides a lot of different challenges that you have to be, in my opinion, as an American actor, or sorry, American producer, you have to be at a certain point in your career in order to do that, because that is a lot of moving parts and a lot of skill and capability and conversation and planning and execution. When I'm comfortable in LA, in my own hometown, I've got a lot of people that can bail me out of a lot of problems. When you go international, I don't have those people, and that can be scary. But that's just up. It depends. Like, if you find a project, like if you came to me and you're like, Dana, I've got this really great project, I'm really passionate about it, and I know how to get the money.
You have good producers that you can work with them and make a film. Bahman Qubadi is one of the very, very good producers that have a lot of winners of films. You can call them all or with another producers like Shwan Atu. Also, he is a good, he is good actor, and he's producer too. So if you have a plan, it is easy way.
Yeah, and that would be part of my process too, is to connect with people, the community out there, to make that easier. But again, it would have to be the right project. It would have to be something like, well, why am I making this? Why, let's be honest, a white male, why am I making a movie about Iraq, Egypt, Afghanistan, wherever it is? Why am I doing that? And so I've got to, have to have some fire in me in order to want to do that as well. Otherwise, why do any project if you're not passionate about it or not passionate about it?
I'm sure there are visa issues and permits and things required from all the different...
Getting cameras across border lines is a very difficult thing, actually.
Yeah, I can
just
imagine.
In the amount of work.
We've got a question here from Kiyu. We've got just about 10 minutes left. So we'll, Kiyu, if you can unmute and ask your question then.
Thanks. I'm just wondering whether you could tell us a bit more about other projects that you've worked on. I mean, you mentioned one. Other projects that you worked on, or you are interested, or you're planning to do, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on a slew of projects, from features to TV shows to short films. I guess, where do I start? I prefer to work with the people. Of course, I want the project to be good. I want the project to be something that's appealing, but I like working with people. So I'll usually kind of make my decision on whether or not to work on a project in that capacity. This summer, I had the opportunity to film a feature. It was a SAG ultra low budget feature, which means we had about $250,000 to $300,000 in the budget, and we were able to make a feature film with that. We were filming here in LA and in all of these different places, and it was a lot of fun. A good group of people just coming together to make this one person's story a reality. And of course, you've got a lot of challenges with that, with COVID testing, with the unique challenges of the pandemic, and the PPE, the personal protective equipment that you have to have on set, the new employees like the COVID compliance officer, all that. So COVID, man. But then on top of that, you've got all the transportation and all of this and all of that.
I'm sure there's certain permits that you need to actually film in different areas, and even if it's local, there must be quite a bit of admin that goes into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to find all the right locations, and location scout is its own job. But we did it ourselves and found these places ourselves, and there's just some really incredible diverse locations, because you don't realize like there's one location that we used, and we used it for two very distinct locations. Like it was this person's house and it was this person's house. But we didn't want them to look together. So the magic of, videography is you can film it just right so that it looks very run down and rugged. And then the next place is, pretty well put together, and that's okay. Even though they're like right next to each other, sometimes even in the same building. So yeah.
And when can we expect to see this movie out? Where can we catch it and when?
That's a great question. I would love to know the answer too. We're in post right now with that. We'll be doing the 2022 film festival run. So we may have submitted like preliminary preliminary cut, that's what they call it, to these festivals, and then we'll provide the final cut when their actual festival starts. So like they've got cutoff dates, like Sundance I think was like September 27th. So we sent, I think we were trying to send it to them by then, and I know we had a cut. I don't know if it was I don't think it was the final cut. Obviously that was a couple months ago, and I know that they've been working on it since. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to see it too, Chris.
So are these kind of low budget films, are they of similar length to the normal film, like about 1.5 hours, like how long they usually are?
Yeah, this one was 91. Actually, it was super long. It was like 120, but we're aiming to cut it to 91 minutes.
Perfect.
And you can it's usually about a minute per page in the script.
Okay.
So you can gauge it.
That's quite interesting. We've got time for one last question from Kazan. We've got 6 minutes left. Kazan, if you want to ask your question.
My question is, how do you choose your actors for your film? I mean, the actors that have experience before. Are you choosing by face? Because I hear that some producers says while we see the face of a pupil, we know that which pupil is good for which actors. I mean, how do you choose these pupils for your acting, for your actors of your films?
Well, we audition them, and sometimes thoroughly. Sometimes we actually just know who they were. So for the feature, a lot of the main actors, actually, other than the lead, a lot of them were just cast based off of people that we knew, because a lot of the casting crew were in the entertainment industry, and they were actors themselves. And so we just said, hey, we know that person's the right fit for this. For the lead, we actually interviewed a lot of people, but it ended up being somebody that one of the producers actually knew. So there are breakdown sites here in the US, depending on which city you're in, you use different ones. But we use Actors Access, LA Casting Networks, and we put up a post and people apply. And then, yes, we start by going through all the pictures. If they just don't look right for the part, we won't contact them. If they do, we'll contact them and sometimes look at their reel, or just say, hey, we want to audition you. They send us, because it was COVID, they sent us a reel. Sometimes you'll set up a room, an office, and people come in and you'll audition them, same audition over and over again. And then you'll go back, you'll look at the people you liked, you'll call them back, you'll kind of refine it from there. Sometimes you'll do several callbacks because you've got a couple people that are right for the part, but you're not sure. You kind of want to do a chemistry read. And it really depends on like how high up the main lead is. So if it's a named talent, you'll want to do a chemistry read before you cast your actor, especially if they don't have a whole lot of experience, because you want to make sure that they can act opposite so-and-so, act opposite somebody famous. And that's actually a challenge, because some people are starstruck, some people are too big, some people just don't mesh just right. So you've got to find the right combination of people. But it's all through the auditioning process. I will never cast somebody who has a speaking role just off their picture. That's just not a smart choice for me. But yeah.
That's perfect. Dana, thanks so much. We've almost at our time there, so I just want to thank you so much for giving us some of your time. I think it's been definitely one of the better sessions we've had. We've learned a hell of a lot here. And I think we're going to have to have you back on once that movie is out and about. When you're famous, don't forget us. You're going to have to stay in touch. And I think Shannon and I are expecting you to make some movies of our books at some stage.
Awesome. Well, yeah, guys, stay in touch with me. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Always happy to stay connected with people who are passionate about what they're doing and wanting to get things off the ground. Sometimes it's plausible, sometimes it's not, but hey, man, I love being connected with people.
You never know until you try. And I think we'll have to have your girlfriend on at some stage just to tell us more about her side of things. But thank you for being with us. It's been another good session of When Ink Can Talk. And thanks for being with us, guys. We'll see you all next week.